Hello, Year 9s. Welcome to your first online lesson for maths for this term. Uh, Before we get into the actual learning, let's just go through the structure of what's in store for you for all of term 2. So we've changed our timetable, revised it a bit. You'll still have more maths and English than anything else. So you get 3 maths lessons per week. In your revised timetable, they'll basically be at the same time as we've been having maths all of term 1. So you'll have a class on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday. So what you'll be expected to do is when maths is on your timetable, you should be doing maths. Okay, so there'll be 3 lessons uploaded to Google Classroom per week, and most of them will have the same structure. So you'll have a video like this one to watch each time. There'll be a set of questions that will go along with the video, with the worked examples that I give you. And then there'll be answers uploaded as well, so you can check your own work and fix your mistakes. On top of those 3 lessons, because you are expected to do a bit more maths than other subjects, you should be doing a bit of maths every day. I'll be uploading some mathletics tasks for you to do outside of your normal class time. So you might do those on Friday because they'll be based on the work we've done for that week. So to be able to stay up to date with these expectations and to keep up on track with your work in maths, here are the resources and materials that you'll need as we progress through the term. Obviously, every class that you have is going on Google Classroom, so there is the expectation, hopefully, that we'll all have computers with internet access. I know the school's doing a bit of work to sort you guys out for those of you that don't have computers at home. So once you've logged on to Google Classroom and you've got access to all these materials, which presumably if you're watching this video, you've already got that stuff. Specifically for maths, what you'll need your exercise book for doing your working out. It is expected that every lesson you have, you'll write your answers in that exercise book, so hopefully you didn't leave it in your locker. We're also going to try really hard to keep our glossary books up to date. So if you don't have a glossary book, you'll need that second exercise book to put in all of the worked examples and vocabulary that you're going to be given. You'll need your calculator, so hopefully you've got that in your pencil case, and writing implements so you can write down your answers. As long as you got all that stuff, you'll be able to keep up to date with our work. I'll try and upload all of our questions onto Google Classroom because I know not all of you have the textbook and a lot of you probably didn't take your textbook home. All right, so with all of that stuff out of the way, we can jump into our first lesson and get to the maths. So we did finish our second unit for the year last term. We finished up on angles, so we're ready to start our new unit of work, which unfortunately for you guys is on algebra. So we'll be doing algebra for a few weeks, maybe half the term at least. And we're going to start pretty slow today because it is your first lesson. You're all a bit rusty coming in off a 3-week holiday. So we're just going to start with just the vocabulary around algebra, so you know what words mean what, and so when we talk about those words later on in the unit, you'll know what we're talking about. So on our Google Classroom, I have uploaded a file that has all of our vocabulary terms for today's class. So all of these terms are going to be going in your glossary. So you can either print out that sheet and stick it in if you've got access to a printer at home. Otherwise, it doesn't hurt to just write them all down. We'll just go through them quickly one by one. So the first uh, vocabulary term we're going to learn is actually the word term. In maths, when we talk about a term, we're just talking about something algebraic usually, a group of letters and numbers that are together, like in a chunk. So these are like our little pieces or chunks of algebra. And you'll be seeing them in these things called expressions that have just pluses and minuses in between them. So I've got an example of a few terms underneath. If we want to just count up how many terms there are, this would qualify as a term. It's a letter. It doesn't have a number with it, but as long as you've got letters or numbers or both, even powers as well, it counts as a term. So that's our first one. 7ab, 7ab, 7 abs. It's what you get when you stay at home in isolation and do a few sit-ups. Minus 2ab squared would be a term as well. Half of a BCD is a term. And just this minus 9 over by itself as well would qualify as a term. So what I've got here are just 5 different terms, kind of all with different things or pieces in them. So anything with letters and numbers is a term. And any term can have 3 parts. So this is going to be one of the words to look out for. The coefficient will be the number in front of it. Variable, seem to be missing the back of that word there. There we go. The variable is the letter. Okay, so we don't try not to call them letters. We do call them variables in maths. And some of them you'll see have powers as well, or indices. So we'll be dealing with powers a lot more down the track. So that's our term, broken up into a coefficient, a variable, and maybe a power as well. It's worth knowing as well what a constant term is. uh, it's going to be any term that we see in our maths that doesn't actually have a variable inside it. So if I'm given 9b's, that's no good. We don't want to have a variable in that one. A number by itself can just be a term. So this is called a constant because it is the number 9. It doesn't change, right? This b can be changed into different things down the track. So it might take on different appearances, but a 9 is always just a 9. It's constant. It doesn't change. So that's a constant term. And your last vocabulary terms that you'll need for this lesson and for future lessons are expressions and equations. You've got to know what they are. You've got to know the difference between them. So we're mainly going to be working with expressions for this half of the term. So an expression is when you've just got a sum that has some terms in it. So A plus AB is an expression. It's just a bunch of stuff with some pluses and minuses in between it. Yeah. AB squared, take BCD plus 9 as an expression as well. They're called expressions because they're just a statement that don't really have an answer. The opposite of that is an equation. An equation is a sum that has terms in it, but we've got an equal sign in the middle, and because there is an equal sign, there's probably going to be an answer to whatever our letter is. This A up here, we don't know what it is. We're not interested in knowing what it is, but this A down here, because there's an equal sign, is something we can actually solve, which we do later on in the term. So expressions don't have equal signs. Equations do have equal signs, and there'll be something on the left and something on the right. So your first goal today is to write all of those glossary terms into your glossary so you've got them and can refer back to them when you need them, when you get asked questions about them. The second thing you'll do is answer some questions like what we've got on the screen here. So for this question here, we've just got a few things to think about. So part A, state the number of terms in this expression. So the number of terms is just the number of different pieces of algebra or different things that have pluses and minuses in between them. So we can count them up. 6x is a term. Negative 3xy is a term, z is a term, 2 is a term as well, a constant term, x squared z is a term, and y squared on top of 7 is a term as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer to A is that there are 6 terms. They then ask us to find the coefficient of the second term. You'll have it written in your glossary that the coefficient is the number part of your term. It's the number in front of the variable. So the coefficient of the second term, the second one is here. And we're just looking for the number in front of that. And it's not 3. There is a negative there. Negative 3 is a different number than 3. So the coefficient of the second term is negative 3. To state the coefficient of the last term, they pick this one because it's a bit tricky. It's a bit different. What's going on here is that it's being divided by 7. A nicer way of writing that is to say that this y squared is being multiplied by 1/7. All right, so that is kind of what that 7 means. And if there is a constant term, we need to say what it is. The constant term is just the number by itself without a letter. So the constant term is the number 2. Okay, so this should hopefully help you answer some of the questions that have been set for you today. Okay, so one final reminder of what you need to do to pass this first lesson. You've already watched the video at this point. You've got all the learning that you need to do. So the first thing you've got to do is get those glossary words from the PDF that's on Google Classroom. You can print it off if you want, but otherwise just write it into your glossary book. Once you've got that done, you've got some questions to answer. Okay, so you can just get the PDF open through Google Classroom. You should be writing the answers in your exercise book nice and neatly, and then you can check your answers. Okay, there's not too many questions today. All right, nice and slow, steady start to the term. Not asking too much of you, so hopefully you can get those questions done and ticked off. And then once you've done all that, you go back to Google Classroom, and then you can tick off that you have actually done that first lesson, and you'll be ready for your next one later in the week. Good luck.